Hey everyone, Sari here. This video is just a short showcase of Eldervi's double note Sigurd Dark Defense, and the team I'm planning to use to deal with these sorts of maps. I actually expected to need to build a team from scratch to deal with them, but it turns out I already had the answers I needed. Ashnard is here as the team's melee specialist. While I do think a blue unit would have a much easier time handling Sigurd and Note, Ashnard does provide Felix with a significant amount of extra bulk thanks to Gurgrant and attack speed rain. Steady posture, or a similar guard effect, is a very important part of the melee unit's role, since it prevents Sigurd from activating Holy Knight Aura twice in one combat, while also preventing, or at least slowing, specials from the notes that he'll eventually need to handle. Dull Close, or Close Defense 4, is another important part of the kit. Visible buffs are a very common part of Sigurd teams, especially paired with a flash odd recovery healer. Cancelling those buffs is typically worth a lot of extra stats, especially fighting against Note with her bonus doubler. Felix, meanwhile, is the team's bodyguard. He's built as a pure bulk far-safe specialist, and nearly every skill is working to help him come out of a fight with as much health as possible. I decided against using any healing in his kit, since it's very common for healing to get shut down by some combination of flash and fatal smoke. Using Bonfire instead helps him secure knockouts on key targets once the initial stampede is over. Distant Defense 4, a lot like Ashnard's Dull Close, is extremely valuable against Sigurd maps. Sigurd himself will buff his entire team with +6 attack, so the skill usually ends up being worth 14 defense and res instead of the 8 it uses in the description. It's worth mentioning that neither of these two are optimized for handling this sort of map. Ashnard would be much better off with plus defense than plus res, while Felix would prefer plus res to plus defense, along with Slick Fighter, but I don't have that for him yet. The mythics are mostly tailored for supporting different teams. Peony's two distant guards are pretty universally useful and are a big help for Felix here, and the in-combat bonuses from Milla's weapon are actually more valuable than her isolation effects against the more dangerous Note Sigurd defenses. I don't expect this solution to work for everyone. I was pretty lucky to have already invested in Ashnard and Felix before now, and having Farsave in particular makes handling these setups a lot easier. On the other hand, both of these units are a lot more accessible than things like Brave Hector, and can be extremely powerful outside of this team as well. A lot of these skills can be substituted too, depending on what and who you have available. As for Farsave itself, I think there's a good chance we'll see Henriette on the next Double Special Heroes banner. I don't think we'll see it on the next summer banner, mostly just because we've never had an armored summer unit, but there's a chance we'll see it on the banner after that. There's also Winter Fae in the current Hall of Forms, but she might have a tricky time handling threats like Duo Leaf, on top of being really hard to merge and also being a melee without a preferred weapon. So let's get to the match itself. I'd like to start by thanking Eldervi for letting me showcase his defense here. I didn't actually get to run into one of these in my regular matches during Note's debut week, so getting to test his defense helped me get a good idea of what to expect from them. I think this is actually a really solid demonstration of the double note Sigurd defense. Even if the Sigurd, Selena, and Leaf aren't merged, the merge levels are a lot less important than maximizing the threat ranges of the team. The forward note extends the first turn threat range to the center 4 columns, making it impossible to avoid a turn 1 engagement as long as you bring 6 units to the fight. Meanwhile, Nana's odd recovery and the backline notes rally up guarantee that the rally will plant in front of the inactive note, which gives the team a Pathfinder corridor they can use to access nearly the entire map. Setting this up is mostly about making sure that Sigurd himself can only attack 1 unit. And since he has pass, the best way to do that is actually just to arrange our units in a very tight cluster, which means that he can't run past them to hit something else. And by setting Ashnard up in the front here, we also give Felix a very useful aura that helps him actually tank his way through the rest of these units. It doesn't affect Brahmond, but it does a very good job of reducing the damage he takes from everything else. And since we actually got to bait Nana to attack air instead of anything that would affect Ashnard, Ashnard actually gets to chunk Sigurd down pretty significantly, which makes him a lot easier to clean up on the following turn. And while Felix himself doesn't actually get to counterattack anything, that's not really a bad thing, since he's not taking too much damage here, and is going to come out of this turn pretty healthy, even with the Fatal Smoke and Flash effects. From here, it's really just about carefully picking off some key targets over a couple of turns. We start by taking down Sigurd, so that he doesn't get a chance to attack anything we don't want him to. And Selena is not really a particularly large threat in the enemy phase. I'm also moving air over this way to help bait Nana over into the corner. While it's tempting to try and take her out to get rid of the flash effect and let Felix start counterattacking, it's a lot more important to isolate her and keep her alive, which makes it much easier to pick up the pots after we finish clearing out the rest of these threats. Ashnard's build is actually very tailored to dealing with Nott, enough that the rally Nott actually prefers rallying to attacking him. And while Felix can't counterattack Leaf here, it's not like Leaf is really getting much done. Meanwhile, Ashnard can actually just one-shot this Nott and take her out of the picture. We do need to take one more turn here without actually moving out of position, since it's a little tricky to actually take down the Nott and the Leaf without actually having a bonfire pre-charged on Ashnard. So instead of actually breaking formation, we have enough turns to work with, and we just sit tight, dense, and wait for the next round. And while this Nott does get to do some damage to Ashnard, it's really not enough to threaten him. And while Leaf's weapon is reactivated, it's still not enough for him to do any damage to Felix. From here it's much easier to clean up the Nott before we trap Nana in her corner and start moving forward to collect the pots. The Order's buff from Peony lets Felix move forward and finally get a chance to attack something on his own. Bringing down Leaf, and also protecting anyone else from being attacked by the Nana. Not that she can actually reach anything else from here. And from this point on, it's very much just a pot hunting mission while we clean things up. I do think that overall this is one of the more obnoxious defenses to run into these days. I do think, sadly, that Far Save is actually the best answer to this. I don't think you need Near Save for most of the variations of this, since it's much more important to be able to cover your non-tanky units from the ranged attackers. The melee ones are usually a lot more predictable with where you can guide them to, even if there isn't a wall of structures on the front line.
Do I look merry?
And with one more dance, we can take Nana down and close this out.
If I have to.
And there we go. I hope this helps you deal with these sorts of layouts, even though Far Save isn't really available currently, I at least wanted to show that you can beat these with more easily available units than, for example, a maxed out Brave Hector with far save and Flame and near save support. I do have a Discord in the video description if you'd like to hang out and chat, and there's also a Patreon page if you'd like to help support the channel. As always, thanks for watching, I hope you've enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time.